So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Jpmorgan presentation this morning. It was great to chat to a few of you in our employer booth yesterday. And hopefully today you'll get some more information and colour on some of the questions that you've answered. What we want to cover with you today is kind of that question of, if you're looking for a tech career, why come to a bank? We know you've got lots of options, and it might not seem the natural place to start your tech career, but we actually have over 50,000 technologists working at Jpmorgan. So I think at the last count, we have more technologists working for us than Microsoft do. So in many ways, we are actually a tech firm ourselves. But hopefully over the course of the next half hour, 45 minutes or so, you'll not only get a sense of the kind of work that we do, but also our culture and why this is somewhere we hope that you will apply to. So I'm probably the least important person on this call today, because I work in the campus recruiting team. So my job is to go out and find great people like you and encourage you and inspire you to apply to Jpmorgan. But the people who are really going to encourage you and inspire you are the ones doing the roles that hopefully you're applying to do. So we've got Hermione, John and Nathan. And unfortunately, Nathan's camera's not working. He's not sort of like James Bond and having to keep a low profile. But we're really glad we've got the three of them here today. And you'll get to know them a bit more over the next few minutes or so. But I think I'm just going to start by asking each of you just to introduce yourself quickly. Where do you work? What do you do? A bit of your background. So Hermione, we'll go old school and do ladies first.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Hermione. I work in AWM, which is Asset Wealth Management. I have been at Jpmorgan for just over a year now. I joined on the Tech Connect program, which automatically rolls onto the software engineering program. So technically I'm a SEP now, which is what we call the software engineer graduates. But I joined a bit earlier to sort of train in how to code, because that's what the Tech Connect program is. They take people who don't know how to do computer science and train you up. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
Brilliant, thanks, Hermione. John, we'll come to you next.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is John. I have a first degree in computer science and a second in applied data analytics. I actually joined Jpmorgan slightly over a year ago as well. I joined as an intern, long-term placement, and I recently just rolled over to the grad scheme now. I currently work with in CIB payments. And my previous team was also CIB, but that was more of service improvement. So that's pretty much it.
Thanks, John. And last but not least, Nathan.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I joined Jpmorgan 5 years ago. So I joined on the internship, and I just kind of never left. So I finished the internship and joined on the equivalent of SEP at the time. I work in the corporate investment bank around market risk. Prior to that, I was just a student. I didn't have any other professional experience.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Nathan. And that's the aim. Once we get you in, you never leave, because why would you? It's a lovely place to be. And what the guys didn't mention, I think it's probably important to mention now, is that all of us on this call are actually located outside London. So John and I are down in Bournemouth on England's sunny, well, so far south coast, and then Hermione and Nathan are both up in Glasgow, and Glasgow is a real tech hub for us up at Jpmorgan as well. So be interesting to sort of see that there is life outside London, and we have real tech hubs in those areas. So let's get into the sort of the meat of what we want to talk about. You all mentioned sort of the areas that you work in, so Hermione in AWM, John and Nathan in CIB. Could you tell us a little bit more about the kind of projects and work that you do, to give people a sense of what kind of software engineering and development we do in a bank? John, maybe let's start with you this time, if that's okay.
I think you're on mute, John.
John, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
John, you're on mute.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Oh, okay. So I feel like I have a lot to talk about my experience during the placement year, because I just joined the team I'm currently on. So during my placement year, well, one thing that struck first at me was that it was like I was in the best team I don't know, maybe every other person felt like they were in the best team as well, because I felt it was the team that matched my skill set. Because like I said, I work on Java technologies, worked on Python for the machine learning aspect, and then also front end stuff, TypeScript, Angular, and stuff like that. So the project I was on, well, it's not too sensitive, so I can talk about that. It's basically an incidents analysis tool. So what we do is just get the incidents in the business, all the incidents that's related to the business, and we apply some machine learning stuff to it, try to cluster similar incidents and try to classify some incidents. And then this tool kind of enabled the, we call them problem analysts, to be able to spot thematic problems. Thematic problems in the sense that things that occur probably just to get some pattern and try to fix those things, the root cause of such problems. So during my placement year, it was really fun. Like I'm not gonna lie, to me, I just felt like I kept telling the HR people, like I think this was actually the best team for me. And it wasn't just about the work as well, because my manager actually gave me the leeway to be able to work on side projects as well. So I actually did some automation for the larger team. I also had the opportunity to work on some site. Well, I'm not going to talk about the hackathon and all that stuff, but it's really fun. Yeah, I also got the necessary visibility as well in the larger team and in the bigger firm. Yeah, I can talk about that later on. So I shouldn't yap all day long. Brilliant. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And certainly sort of one of the things I know that we try and do is when we hire, we don't necessarily hire directly into a team. We sort of what we call pool hire, so that we get our set number of people that we want, and then we kind of distribute you around, and very much looking at what your background is, also what your interests are, and trying to match those up with the role. So it's really good to hear that works well. Hermione, what about you? What kind of sort of technologies are you working on? What kind of projects do you do?
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with John. My team felt like the perfect team for me, which I didn't really think was possible, given that I'd come from Tech Connect and I didn't really have a set idea of what tech team I wanted to be in, but somehow HR figured it out and just put me in the perfect place. So I work for marketing technology. So the marketing teams in Asia and down in London, they use the tool that I helped build, which is a tool that helps them send letters to clients in the private bank. And most of my day-to-day is spent sort of building out new features for this tool. So it's actually quite innovative. It's not just, tech help. We do a bit of that, obviously, but it's because we've built this brand new tool and we're sort of testing it out and figuring it out. So it's really exciting. I find it really exciting. Tech Connect, they only teach you Java, but actually when I came into my role, I was doing a full stack role. So I was doing Java, I was doing React, and I love it. I actually found that I preferred to do front end rather than back end code. So it's been a really big learning curve, but I actually love doing a full stack role because I feel like it's just so interesting. And just what I'm learning, I just feel like I've gained so much knowledge in the space of a year. And also I love, particularly of my role, I really like being so close to the business. So I get to talk to the business probably daily, which some people prefer to be just more focused on code. Some people prefer to be able to talk to the bank. I'm definitely one of the latter. So I've really enjoyed it.
That's brilliant to hear. And I think that's an important part. I mean, we're lucky our clients are kind of literally next door. Sometimes we're sitting next to them. So having that interaction is brilliant. Nathan, how about you? What does your kind of work project look like?
Sure. So I mentioned I work in market risk. The product that I work on is really quite interesting. So it's a scenario analysis tool. It allows traders to run kind of what if scenarios on the market. So it's very topical, right? So if you think of like the last week, right, we had the US election. So these guys are running scenarios every day to kind of guide the investment bank on what might happen if Joe Biden wins, or what if Donald Trump wins, or what the possible impact financially of coronavirus might be. So it's always very topical. It's always kind of based on what you see in the news. And to me, that's really interesting. And there's a really kind of deep subject matter to kind of get into. So to Hermione's point, I don't want to sit in a corner and write code all day. And I have the flexibility that I can kind of work with the users more and learn more about that subject. I still write code. I'm still a developer, but I can do other things.
Brilliant. And I think that's another sort of advantage of the size of a firm like Jpmorgan. There is that room to we have got some colleagues who are those pure kind of headphone, no disrespect, John, headphones on in a corner, just write that code, and others who are much more about the client facing side. And there's probably a scope across the board where you can find your fit. But certainly, I think at the hiring level, we're looking for people who've got the ability to do both, and then we can sort of work out how that goes as we go along. So your work on stuff that you're finding very interesting, really topical, makes best of your skills. I'm just keen to know what made you look at financial services as a place to do tech, and did you look at other tech firms? John, let me start with you again, because Hermione, I realise it might be slightly different for you. So John, where did you consider when you were looking for roles?
Okay, to be totally honest, I didn't know much about Jpmorgan before joining. But while growing up, I've always known the brand. It's like a huge brand and all that. So, and then I was kind of into blockchain technology at the time, and I knew Jpmorgan had their own blockchain platform. I think it was like the only bank at the time. I don't know if any other bank has theirs now. So during the campus recruitment exercises, and when I saw Paula and some other people, I remember I actually went straight to the stand, and I got there. I was like, I've been looking for you guys. Where have you been? And so I got the opportunity to talk to some of the engineers, and yeah, I asked some questions, and I kind of got the feeling that Jpmorgan was really, I was just fascinated about how invested they were into technology. And yeah, of course, I actually drilled the engineer. I asked about the tech stack, because we all have this this idea, or this wrong notion that if you're a software engineer, if you work in the bank, especially if you're a techie person, and you feel like they're only working on legacy technologies, you won't get the opportunity to work with the latest technologies. Maybe you're using Docker, machine learning, blockchain, and stuff like that. Jpmorgan, it's a place for everyone. Like, there's a spot for everyone. Yeah, fine. Working with Jpmorgan is, well, now I'm in the company, I know more. So working with Jpmorgan is actually like working with a tech company, but it's on the financial sector. Actually, sometimes I don't feel like I'm just working with a bank, because the technology stack we work on and all that is same thing as most tech companies would do. So for me, that was really it.
I think I remember that career fair. I think we had the whole back wall.
Yeah, because I remember when I came for the interview, you saw me and you had this look like, I'd seen this fair. I was like, yeah, I know. I know.
Oh no, who let him in? Thanks, John. Thanks. Yeah. Nathan, how about you? Because you sort of came straight from university to Jpmorgan. So as a technologist, what was it about joining a bank or a financial services firm that attracted you? Or maybe it wasn't that?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I joined as an intern. So I was doing like an integrated master's, and I had to do an internship kind of before the end of it. I applied to a few firms. I was kind of interested in a bigger firm, and maybe come back to that later. But I started on the internship, and I was really surprised by the kind of autonomy that I was given. So I started the internship, and they put me on some rubbish manual task that they expected to take 10 weeks. And I spoke to my manager like a weekend, and I was like, this is awful. What else can I do? And he gave me another project. So he gave me like a rewrite of a significant piece of the application. And I just thinking, I know nothing, but this guy's just trusted me to, go off and do something, which is really kind of contrary to what I'd heard from kind of peers at other firms. They weren't really given that leeway to go off and do something on their own. So that to me really appealed as I would like to come back here. And I joined the same team as a grad, so I stuck with it.
Excellent. So sometimes it's not about, am I at Google, am I at this? It's about going in and having that feeling, is this somewhere where I can develop and be, like you said, be trusted to do things. That's really good to hear. Hermione, your journey's been a little bit different. And we were talking yesterday, because obviously you come from an English and philosophy background. So can you tell us a little bit about how you arrived at tech and then why Jpmorgan?
Yeah, hilariously, I was actually a brand ambassador for RMP at uni, and I volunteered to do the Jpmorgan Tech Showcase just as a helper, just to sort of help set up the event. And I was at this event, and I was sort of looking around at something like this, hearing what people were asking and looking at all the tech, and I was like, I want to do that. That's really cool. And I just, I asked one of the representatives from Jpmorgan, I was like, I do English and philosophy, but how do I do this? How do I get into this? And amazingly, Jpmorgan had Tech Connect, which I'd never heard about. And I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't know any other company that does that, that takes people who don't have a computer science degree and trains you to be a software engineer. And it just kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, I can actually do this. This is real. And I'd always wanted to sort of get involved in tech. Learn how to code was just a big thing for me. And I had done the Code First Girls, which is like a thing that you can do at uni where they just sort of teach you the very basics of sort of HTML and CSS. And for the life of me, I did not think that I would get the job. I was like, there's no way they're going to accept an English and philosophy student. Like, I have no background whatsoever. Just sort of like a kind of gung-ho spirit of, yeah, I really want to do this. And yeah, I think just the more I read about Tech Connect and the more I progressed through the stages, and it became like a real thing. And the more I went to these events and I heard about what the opportunities were, I just realized that Jpmorgan was definitely the place that I wanted to be.
Great, thank you. And important to call out Tech Connect. We're still recruiting for Tech Connect. So anyone kind of listening, if you come, maybe not from a computer science, software engineering background, but you've got an interest in tech, you could be doing any STEM subject or not a STEM subject and just be interested in doing it. Hermione is living proof that, techies come from all over the place, and we're really keen to work on that. And Hermione will be in the booth a bit later on this afternoon if any of you want to ask specific questions around Tech Connect. I know we've only got about 10 minutes until we're going to your questions. So I want to get the team to talk a little bit more about Jpmorgan as a place to work and our culture, because I'm conscious that in these times when your only connection with companies is virtual, it's hard to get a sense necessarily of the culture that well. So Nathan, I'm going to come to you first, if that's okay. Just a really simple one. What's your favorite thing about working at Jpmorgan?
Very flexible. So especially these days, so at least in Glasgow, we more or less work from home these days. It's awesome. Like, I can go to an appointment. I can, I work with people in India in the morning. The afternoons are empty. I can go to the gym. I can go shopping. And obviously after that, I have to make up the hours, but it's incredibly flexible. And because we're working with so many, or a global team, it kind of shifts around a bit. So it swings and roundabouts. But I definitely see that as a huge plus.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's something that a lot of startups and smaller firms kind of focus on, is that flexibility. I used to work for a startup tech firm in Scotland who do travel, and we always used to talk about how flexible we were. And now at Jpmorgan, which is a totally different size and scope, still have that flexibility. So I agree with you. It's really nice to be able to own your day a bit like that. John, how about you? What's your favourite thing about Jpmorgan?
For me, it's well, just like you said, flexibility, but it's, should I say everything? So yeah, about the flexibility where you can also get to do your own thing. If you're working on a project and you feel like you also want to get involved in some other technologies, you can also do that. There's so many resources around support. We have community of practice. I'm part of the data science community of practice. Because I was interested in blockchain, there was no blockchain community of practice, but yeah, I think I had a conversation with one of the VPs and we're like, oh, maybe it would be nice to kickstart that. The mobility as well. If you're in a team and you feel like you would do better than another team, you can actually still move teams. Because for me, I was enjoying my internship so much and I was scared that, oh, this thing would only be applicable to my team. What if I get a team? What if I come back as a grad and get a team that I don't like? So you can actually look out for recruiting managers. For me, the current team I'm on, the manager actually requested for me. So because I networked with him, I got to know what he does, or what the team was. I'm into payments now, which is quite huge, and I wanted to get more involved in the financial aspect as well. Follow the money. So what else? Yeah, the community, it's fun. People are friendly. You ask questions. It's a global company. You get to interact with people in other time zones. We don't have our sleeping pods yet, but I do make use of the reflect at work. We have that in Bournemouth. So every once in a while, I just go there. You see a lot of people that go meditate. What else? BRGs are quite good as well. Actually, I don't know, just by the stroke of fate, I actually got an invite to have lunch with Jamie Dimon, which is like the president of United there. I thought it was a phishing mail because I just didn't respond. Like, why? So that just goes to say that you also get visibility somehow. I mean, if you do what you do, you try to interact, there is an opportunity for that visibility. You just don't feel like you work with a big company and no one knows who you are. You're just at the rung of the ladder, Yeah, so I can keep going on and on and on, but yeah, let me hand the mic to Emily. Yeah.
Just on the BRG points, I think that's a really good one to showcase. So for our audience, BRG stands for Business Resource Groups, and these are sort of communities within Jpmorgan who represent different sort of common interests. So some of them are diversity related. So we have BOLD, which is for our Black employees. We have Pride for our LGBTQ plus community. Have Women on the Move for women. We have Next Gen for people who are at the beginning of their career. We've got working families, all sorts of things. And these are sort of communities of shared interests. And you don't have to be from that community. You can join as an ally as well. And they just offer networking opportunities, social opportunities, and ways for you to connect with people who are like you, but also to get to know other people and sort of see things through their lens as well. So the BRGs are a great opportunity. And I know so many people who, through their BRGs, have met someone, had that conversation, and it's led to a project, an opportunity, a next job. So I think definitely a really great part of being at Jpmorgan and something to get involved in if you join. Hermione, you've had plenty of time now to have a think about what's your favourite part of working here?
I was going to say the BRGs, but everyone's mentioned those now. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the fact that my day-to-day job is not just my job. The BRGs are incredible. So when I first started, I do so much stuff outside of my day-to-day job. So I'm the AWM Glasgow lead for Women on the Move, which has just been fantastic because you get to talk to people that you wouldn't normally come across. The people down in London, leads down in London, like VPs, EDs. You get to organise all these different events. And also they have these like mentoring circles, so you can connect with women from across the globe and just talk about how you're finding it, what issues you're finding. And it's so interesting to think that me in a tech role in Glasgow can have exactly the same issue as a VP in South Africa. It's just, it's incredible. I'm also on the software engineer committee for the grads. So we organize social events, networking events, all of that. And it's just a great opportunity to sort of connect the grads, like your cohort, you'll be so close. It's actually like most of my friends in Glasgow, because I moved here for Jpmorgan. Most of my friends in Glasgow are from Jpmorgan because you just get so close and you just have a real sense of community. I mean, this is my first job, but I've just never really experienced such a strong sense of community, even like when doing an internship or anything like that. And I think the business resource groups really help with that.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's really good to hear. I need to get more involved in my BRD. So we've only got a couple of minutes left until we're going to hand over to Lizzie for your questions in the audience. So I thought let's just finish with what advice would you have for our audience now? So looking either at choosing a firm, choosing a career, starting out, what would be the one thing that you wish you'd known or thought about more when you were starting out? And Nathan, I'll come to you because you haven't spoken to for a while, but I realise this also cast your mind back 5 years or so. What do you wish you'd known, or what advice do you have?
So kind of over your career, like you get random kind of nuggets of wisdom from people. So one that I got when I joined that kind of stuck with me is to treat everyone as a peer. So like if you think coming into any industry as a graduate, you are the most junior person in the room. So if you decide to talk up to people and you take their opinion as kind of more weighted than yours, like you're always going to lose, right? Because you're the most junior. So the kind of advice that I got was to never talk up to people. Now, I'm sure my boss regrets giving me that advice all these years later, but it really is valuable to kind of value your own opinion and to not let others just kind of bulldoze you just by the merit of being more senior. Like I manage a couple of grads these days, and for the longest time they would, I could tell them something wrong and they would go away for an hour and come back and say, oh, that didn't work. We thought it was wrong, but you said it was that, so it was fine. Right? You have to be able to question people who are quote unquote more senior than you.
I think that's a fantastic piece of advice, and it's interesting that you raised that, because one of the things that often comes out when we're doing wash-ups from assessment centres is sort of we're talking about wanting people who will ask those questions, and think that's one of the biggest values that you bring as a sort of new member of the team is you get to ask those why questions that everyone else is kind of, well, this is how we do it, and asking why and not being afraid to show curiosity and have an opinion and know something, I think is so important. But that's great advice, Nathan. Thank you. Hermione, how about you? What advice would you give to someone who's maybe thinking about tech for the first time?
I think probably along the same lines, but taking like a different track with it. I think something for me, I came into a job that I had no idea how to do. And you get so nervous about saying that you don't know something, especially in an interview if you're asked a question and you have no idea. Like, I mean, I was asked a technical question and I didn't know how to code, and I couldn't even pretend, I just had to say that I do not know. And I think I've learned over this past year that it's perfectly acceptable as a grad, or actually as anyone in any stage of their career, just to be like, I don't know, but I want to learn. And just holding your hands up to that and being open to that is something that I've found so useful. And it's taken me a while to learn, because I'm usually very much like, I want to have the answer, but just being able to just tell others that you don't, and then you'll learn so much more, because everyone else around you has different experiences and you just sort of become like a sponge and you just absorb it. So yeah, I think that would be my advice. Just be open to learning and be open to admitting something when you don't know it.
Brilliant, great advice. And as you say, you've got so much out of taking that approach. So I think that's fantastic. John, I'm going to come to you for the final piece of advice before Q&A. No pressure, but it's got to be good.
Yeah, well, just like they've all said, yeah, be open to learn. Yeah, so just have an open mind, because and there's this adage that says a full cup will never get more tea. So just be open to learn new things, and also accept the things you do not know, and also ask questions when you're in doubt. It really helps. So that's just to keep it brief. That's all.
That's brilliant. That's a phrase I didn't know, and I'm now going to use. That's wonderful. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much. I think probably the thing to do now is hand over to Lizzie for questions from our audience. So be gentle with us, Lizzie.
Of course. Hello, everyone. And thanks so much for all of those insights. And I tell you what, we've had so many questions. Literally, I've been monitoring the chats. So I'm just going to dive in. That's all right. Try and get through as many as we can in the next 15 minutes. So yeah, I'm Lizzie from Rates My Placement. Anyone in the audience who's wondering who is this person that's just popped up? And for everyone on the panel, hello. So I'm just going to dive in, as I said. So we've got loads of really good questions about, I guess, your role. Like everyone wants to know about what you do and what's a normal working day look like. So I think let's start there. What does a normal working day look like? Should we go? Let's go to Hermione.
Okay. No day is the same. I'll just start by saying that. But a normal working day, I would probably spend a good part of my day on a piece of code, testing it out, trial and error, mainly error before I get it right. And then, you have, I mean, it's strange right now because we're in a pandemic, but we have meetings like constantly with your team. I do so many like business resource groups that I have meetings sort of left, right, and center with so many different people. I'm constantly talking to different countries, to different places, to people in different roles. And then, yeah, I guess coding for the rest of that. So it's so flexible. But then I have days where, maybe I'm doing something like this and I'm talking to new grads, or maybe I'm doing a volunteer day and I'm completely out of the office and I'm away from it. And especially when you're a SEP just starting, you'll have 4 hours of your week devoted to a charity project called Force for Good, where you'll be completely out of your job and you'll just be with a couple of other grads coding a solution for a charity. So there's so much flexibility, there's so much going on that it's even hard to describe what a normal day is.
Oh, that's amazing. Do you know what? Someone's just written in the chat, your experiences, excitement and passion have convinced me. I'm applying right now. I mean, wow. There you go. That's great. So should I come on to John? Is there anything in terms of your day to day? Is it similar? Is it you have different things all the time, or what's your working day look like?
Yeah, well, it's roughly similar. Well, the team I'm currently on now, lots of meetings though. And then I'm also working on a side. Well, I wouldn't call it a side project because it still feeds back to the main project. And during my placement year, it was similar as well, but that I was constantly committing to production repo, and yeah, meetings. You communicate with your global team members. That's pretty much it. And then other activities on campus. You have loads of that, loads. And I also, because I actually also want to have fun at work. So sometimes I just go to almost all of them. I just go get some snacks, meet people, and it's fun.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Nathan, I'm going to move on to a different question just so we can get as much out of this conversation as possible. So we've had some questions around kind of key skills and qualities, like if students really want to apply and they want to succeed. From your experience, what are those kind of key skills that you think students need to work at Jpmorgan?
Is it directed to me?
To Nathan. Sorry, Nathan. Okay.
Oh, sure. Okay. So coming back to the cup of tea adage. Ask questions. Like if for example I spend 10 minutes explaining something with a bunch of jargon and you don't know it, and you don't think to ask what the jargon is because you don't want to seem like you don't know the answer, like there's not a good kind of basis for you kind of acting professionally, and it's not going to help you long term to grow. So you really have to ask questions where you don't know the answer. Awesome. Coming back an hour later and saying, I didn't understand a word that you said, it's a good habit to be in, right? You have to ask questions.
Yeah.
And that goes for any seniority, right? It's not specific to a graduate coming in. I have to ask loads of questions. My boss has to ask loads of questions. Right? We don't all know everything.
If only we did, eh? I mean, what world would that be? Crazy world. Thanks, Nathan. Really, really useful. Hermione, is there anything else that you'd add from your side? What kind of key skills or things that you think students need to have to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, my side's so specific that I think you don't have to be, fantastic at the job that you're applying to do when you're applying for it, because that's the whole point. You're coming in as a grad. You're not coming in as the boss. You're not expected to know every little thing. So I think being open and just being ready to literally just be a sponge and absorb everything is probably the best thing for you, as long as you're just ready to go and you're willing to learn. It doesn't matter what you do know, it just matters about what your mindset is, I suppose.
Yeah. Growth mindset. I think lots of people talk about that at the moment, but if students are out there, Google that, because it's brilliant. It's how you take everything and look at things with opportunity. So one for you, John, this is a great one that's coming from Liam in the audience. How is the work-life balance?
Yeah, so for me, it's great, because apart from that, like once you're at work, you still get to communicate with your friends. You still have fun. You're still part of other communities. I remember at the Lances, I think there was a time they were learning how to do salsa. I wanted to join the session. Then outside work, you can. Yeah, I don't have emails on my phone. So once it's 5 p.m., I just shut down and do my normal personal thing. So my work-life balance has been all right.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Okay, there's a few questions for you, Paula, that have come in that I thought we'd just whiz through. So what are the entry requirements for an internship? People want to know.
So if you're looking at a summer internship, probably the most important thing is you've got to be graduating in 2023. Hang on. No, 2022. So summer internship in 2021. You'll be doing your internship now, graduating in 2022. So you're penultimate year student. We unfortunately don't currently have an internship that replicates Tech Connect, which is a shame, because I think that would be a much better thing. So realistically, you are going to be able to need to do some coding, but you don't have to come from a computer science background. I think probably most of our interns come from a computer science, software engineering type background, but we also have physicists, mathematicians, other engineers, or people who've just learnt some coding themselves. So as long as you can code, that's fine. We also, just to call out, in terms of locations where you can do your internship, we have Dublin, Glasgow, Bournemouth, London. And I think the other thing is kind of being quite flexible about where you do your internship, and thinking that Glasgow and Bournemouth are actually hubs for us. Getting people to think like that. But realistically, if you can code and you're a penultimate year, it's open. And if you've got all the skills that we just talked about.
Awesome. Excellent. We've just had a flurry of questions. Oh, sorry, Paula, the signal went a little bit. I was just going to say we've had a flurry of questions come through. So, okay. Wow, it's great. Everyone's very interested. So one thing in terms of, you just talked a bit about the internship. Do you know like what tech related roles you have for grads as well? There's quite a few people asking about that.
Yeah, so we do have some roles on our software engineering program available to start in January. And we think we have a couple of full-time roles still available. So if you go to the website and search on our full-time roles, you'll see them there. In terms of kind of what roles do we have available for the software engineering program, I think I was mentioning, we do what we call pool hiring. So we don't hire directly into a certain team. We hire our 100, say, great technologists that we just want to be at Jpmorgan. And then once we've hired you, that's when we work out, okay, this is where you're best fitted. So across software engineering, you could be working on kind of anything, and we'll work with you on that. Probably the only other area in technology to call out where we do also have opportunities is in the data science, AI, ML space. Those opportunities are for people with masters or PhDs in those specific areas. So you would need to be studying at that level in those areas. And they are, the opportunity there is an internship, but it's like a full-time internship. And it's mainly, the reason it's like that is because it's based around the master's and the PhD timing. And so you would do your internship, and if that goes well and you like it and we like you, that would roll into a full-time opportunity after that. So those are the two sort of areas for full-time opportunities.
Awesome. Yeah, brilliant. I think you've answered quite a few questions from the audience there. So here's one that I actually have no idea. Like you just said, in terms of AI and ML division, I'll be honest, I've never heard of it. So quite a few students have asked what kind of technologies are used in applied AI and ML division. Does anyone know the answer to that?
We would need Paul and Ollie who lead us, but actually, John,
so
your data science community of practice, you probably know better than me.
Yeah. So basically, we use, of course, we have the Anaconda distribution in-house. So most of the packages we use are usually in natural language processing, NLP. I think 90% of most of this you would be doing if you're in ML would be NLP related. And recently, well, there's been some new technologies introduced. For instance, we are also doing, well, it's new actually, reinforcement learning. And we started by racing robotic cars using aerial reinforcement learning with Amazon. It's called Amazon Depray, so you can check it out. So it basically just depends on what area you're on and what it is you're working on. So for my team, during my industrial placement, because it was more of incidents, which is text related, so we're using NLP. And what else? What else can I think of? Yeah. That's pretty much it. So once you're in the company, even if if currently the team you're on, you don't do any ML things, you can actually still get side projects. You can get involved in probably hackathons where people that do those kind of things, and you get involved and get to know more about the field.
Really interesting. Yeah, all of these technology names that I have no idea about, but I feel like I've just learned something from you, John, so that's good. Thank you very much for that. And I think quite a few people have mentioned around moving within the company. So kind of one of the questions I'll pick out is, how hard is it to move from the technology department to other departments? I don't know if that's maybe one more for Paula. You know anything there?
Sure. So it is possible. I mean, one of the things that has really certainly struck me when I first joined Jpmorgan, was how many people I've met who their career journey had been sort of like that, and people do tend to move around quite a bit. If it is something that you want to do and move around, it's about kind of networking, finding your space, but also working out what is that logical next step. So, for example, there's a colleague of mine who used to be on the SET program, so the software engineering program, a guy called Vico, and he was working in CIB. He worked with the traders. He networked around, got something. He's moved over to a business analytics role within markets. So he hasn't gone and become a trader. but he's found a way to kind of move closer to that. So there are those opportunities to move around, and it's about creating them to a certain extent and going out, talking to people, finding out what are the opportunities, sort of working out those stepping stones. And there are plenty of people in the organisation who can help you work that out. It's just about sort of finding out who they are. That's where something like the BRGs, if you've got a network there, you can go up to someone and go, do you know anyone who does it? Rather than necessarily having to have that chat with your boss, because when you're first exploring, you might not want to reveal that too much. Not that you ever shouldn't, but you know, sometimes you're just like, I don't want to tell my boss I'm thinking of doing something else. So yeah, it's very possible, but I think where people have done it successfully, they've put in the time and effort and they've created stuff for themselves.
Brilliant. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. So thank you so much for answering all those questions. And honestly, there's probably been about 30 to 40 questions from the audience. So thank you so much for all of those. I've done my best to try and ask as many as I can. What I'm going to suggest is hop over to the Jpmorgan booth, and then you'll be able to get some more of your answers answered there. So thank you so much, everyone. It's been a pleasure, and take care.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank
Lizzie.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Bye.
Cheers.